Hi everyone, this is Iftikhar. With the help of few demos, let me show you how Microsoft 365 helps organizations protect, detect, and respond to modern cyber threat. So let's begin with information and data protection. Now, as an organization, I have provided my employees to access their corporate apps no matter where they are and what devices they are on. They can log on to this web page called My Apps and can access all their cloud applications from the same console. However, I have provided different layers of conditional access depending upon the risk that particular application hosts. Now, for example, the email employees can access their email and then they can get single sign-on to their email application without having to provide their credential every time. However, I don't really want them to access OneDrive for Business from different devices which are not domain joined or not managed by my organization. But I would still like to have them access OneDrive for Business and access their corporate data without having to sync this data on their corporate devices. So if I go here on and access and try to access the OneDrive for Business, it opens the OneDrive for Business console on the web. However, you'll see in a few minutes that the sync button is missing. I do have option to create new content or new folder, but I can't really sync this device. And I've got this message at the top of the window where it says that you can't really download, print, or sync using this particular device. However, you can still access your data on the browser itself. In addition to that, I can also use Azure Information Protection to create policies to protect the data automatically as and when sensitive information is found on the document. For example, this order details document that I'm trying to create, and I need to basically enter a credit card details in this document. So if you just go ahead and do that. As and when I go and save this document, Azure Information Protection understands this particular document contains sensitive information like credit card details, and it has automatically watermarked the document with confidential tag, as well as put a header here that this contains credit card information and needs to be handled with precaution. This way, all the content which has sensitive information will be automatically protected without user having to do anything. Alright, now let's look at some of the threat protection scenarios of M365. I'll start with Windows 10 Enterprise, where we have this great capability called Credential Guard, which prohibits hacking tools to basically retrieve credential and password hashes from the memory. So I'm connected to a Windows 7 machine, as you can see right now, and I'll try to run a command on this hacking tool called Mimikatz to retrieve password information from a Windows 7 machine's memory. And you can see here on this machine, I can easily find what is the credential, what is the user account that is being used, what is the password, and what is the SHA-1 and NTLM hash on this machine. Similarly, I can find other users who are also logged onto this machine and their passwords and the credentials. This is as easy to retrieve credentials from a Windows 7 machines against some of the hacking tools that exist today. Now let's see the exact same thing on a Windows 10 machine configured with Credential Guard. So I'll run the same tool on a Windows 10 machine which is configured with Credential Guard. And you can see here the passwords are showing null, while and of course the hashes are also encrypted. This way, attacks like pass the hash attack, which basically hackers try to retrieve passwords from the memory and then try to use against you, will never happen on a machine configured with Windows 10 Enterprise Credential Guard. Alright, let me show you one more feature of Windows 10 Enterprise, which basically protects you from malware intrusion like ransomware. This feature is known as Device Guard. So you can see here I'm connected to a Windows 7 machine and I've got this email from Income Tax Department, and it says that you have to pay additional taxes on top of what I've already paid. This email looks like it has legitimate logos and texts. Of course, there's an attachment here, and the attachment looks like a real computation sheet which has some real figures in here. However, this attachment also has a macro, and a lot of users don't even think twice before clicking enable macro. Now, as soon as I enable macro, this particular attachment was infected with a malicious ransomware called WannaCry. And if you look at all my files on my desktop, all my files have basically started encrypting. the multiple copies of the same file has got created. All the files that I have will no longer open. If I try opening any of these files like Excel, this file will not open and give me an error message. You can see here. Similarly, very soon I'll get a wallpaper change, and it will basically give me a ransom note that I have to pay money or bitcoins to this address to get my files back. So let's just wait for that to happen. Now you can see that all my files are encrypted. My wallpaper just got changed, and it's basically saying that you have to pay additional money to this Bitcoin address to get the files back. So this is a typical ransomware attack, how it happens through an email intrusion. And this is the Bitcoin address that I have to pay basically. Alright, now let me show you the exact same thing on a Windows 10 machine configured with Device Guard. Let me show you the same thing on a Windows 10 machine configured with Device Guard. Now here I have downloaded this tax computation sheet right on desktop itself. Now when I try launching this Excel spreadsheet, this Excel spreadsheet has a backend code which basically tries to call a ransomware file and encrypts my machine or encrypts my data. However, since Device Guard is configured, the Device Guard did not let that particular code to run because that particular code was completely unsigned. Similarly, so you can see here this I've got this error message here, so I'm protected that way. Even if I go here and try to download and run that malware manually, I will get this error message. You can see here I just ran this malware manually and I've got this error message that your organization used Device Guard to block this app. This is a great way to basically secure your PCs for an organization to protect against malware intrusions like ransomware. Now let me show you how Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection protects organizations against phishing attack. So in this scenario, I've got this email which looks like it has come from the Microsoft Office 365 team, and email says that your inbox is about to get disabled and you'll stop receiving new emails if you don't upgrade. Now there's a link here which says upgrade now. Now if I don't really have that kind of protection with Office 365 ATP, this will basically land me to a web page which would look like an Office 365 web page with a logon credential, and when I provide my credentials over there, this credential basically lands up with the hacker. However, since I am using Office 365, you can see the email, the link has completely changed, and when I click on this particular link, it opens up the browser and it does the URL detonation to find out what is there behind this particular URL. And we found that there's a malicious web page which looks like it has an Office 365 web page, but it is not, and there's a credential, a logon field and a password field up there which is not tied to any backend database, and the Office 365 ATP basically blocked the access to that web page, saying that it's malicious and users should not go any further than that. So far we just saw some of the demos of some of the protection technologies M365 has to offer. Now let's talk about some of the detection and threat response strategy that M365 also brings on the table. Let me start with Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics. Threat Analytics is a great tool to basically help organizations to detect suspicious activity happening with their users' credentials. For example, a remote execution attempt detected on a particular machine. You can see here that some hacker is trying to basically use techniques like pass the hash attack or pass the ticket attack in the organization. There was a suspicion of identity theft happening because of the user's abnormal behavior, because the user's credentials have found on some computers where he has never logged on before, and they may not be part of the same network or in the same building at all. Similarly, some users are experiencing brute force attack on their passwords, where it says that 450 password guesses were attempted for this particular user. This kind of capability basically helps organizations to detect indication of attack and then confine the PCs and the users so that a large-scale attack could be avoided. Similarly, on endpoint devices, Defender Advanced Threat Protection for Windows 10 protects organizations by looking at some of the suspicious activities happening on the endpoints. Now, these activities could be malware related, or this could not be even a malware. For example, a machine speaking there's machine speaking to some IP address which has a bad reputation, or this IP address was basically used to do some unauthorized access in the past. Similarly, machines are speaking to command and control centers of some botnet. File backups are being deleted from the machines. A vulnerable driver was loaded on a machine like that. Somebody just ran a port scanning tool in an organization to detect what ports are open on one of the servers. By looking at some of these indication of attack and indication of compromise, organizations can basically even take a response from here itself. For example, when organizations see that on this particular machine a lot of suspicious activities are happening and it may really graduate into a large-scale attack, organizations can go ahead and isolate the machine from the network. By isolating the machine from the network, these attacks will no longer further replicate and will be confined to few PCs rather than becoming a major impact by itself. So this is how M365 basically provides a great end-to-end security capabilities from protect, detect, and respond to help organizations against modern cyber threats. Thank you so much for watching.